All right, let's go to a football game. And the 49ers, coming off a tough game last week against Carolina at home, they have to now travel across the country to face the New Orleans Saints, who are a hot football team right now. They just destroyed Dallas over the weekend. 40 first downs. 40 first downs. Amazing by the Saints in that game. They're not going to get 40 first downs against the 49ers. It'll be a different type of football game, Sean, but I got to tell you, New Orleans kind of a scary-looking football team right now.
You know something, Dave, I've been in this business a long time, and every once in a while you see a line that just doesn't make any sense, and those line makers do not give money away. So let's take a look at this. First of all, San Francisco at 6-3 straight up and against the number, and right now they are the number 6 seed in the NFC, so they're really dragging. They're 3-1 straight up and against the number on the road, but that one loss was as a road dog to Seattle, and that was a pretty bad beating, and they're a road dog here coming off that game against what's that quarterback's name for the Carolina Panthers?
Cam Newton.
The New Orleans Saints. Yeah, thank you very much. Do you guys remember when the New Orleans, and this is almost the same team that played in that Super Bowl against Indianapolis a few years ago, do you remember how they got there? They got there because they had a home game in the NFC Championship game against Minnesota when Brett Favre and they looked like they were on their way to the Super Bowl, and he finally threw that interception, and that was in New Orleans, and they won the game, I think, by 3. Dave, is that right? Something like that?
That's correct, yeah.
And the only reason... Yeah, and the only reason they got there is because they had that home court advantage. Now, New Orleans, here they are, 7-2, 6-3 against the number, but there's no secret about their stats at home. They're 5-0 straight up and against the number at home, and they cover these games by an average of 13 points a game, and it's not like they're just squeaking by here. Now, let's look at their schedule. They have a short week. They have to play Thursday football in Atlanta. I don't think they're worried about that. They should win that game, but their deal is to try and get that number 1 seed against Seattle. They've already lost, So here we go. They've had 10 days rest, and then they have to go play Seattle on December the 2nd. And in order for that game to be meaningful, they got to keep winning. And 3 points to me is a short number, especially against a team. When they lose, they don't cover. And if they win, they do cover. And I don't see them winning this game. I think this number is like 3 points off. I think it should be more like 6. I don't think New Orleans will have any trouble with this team. And one other thing, Dave, and you know as well as I do, Super Bowl losers, what do they do the following year? A lot of times, in fact, I bet if we look it up, I don't have the exact numbers, but I bet about 60% of the time, they don't even make the playoffs. I do not understand this line at all, and maybe I'm going to get my head handed to me, but I think 3.5 is cheap.
I'm going to look at the total in the game, and had some success on getting the Saints totals right so far, so hopefully we'll do so again. The 49ers are going to try and run the football in this game. That's not a secret. They've got one of the best rushing games in the league, and New Orleans can be run on. That's I'm not going to say it's their Achilles heel defensively, but it's certainly not their strength. They're very good against the pass, and the 49ers... Well, they're not very good passing. The 49ers are dead last in the league in passing, 174 yards per game. It's just not the big part of their offense. They are a power football team, and they're going to look to establish that in this game. Even if they fall behind early, I don't see the 49ers getting away from what at least should be their first half game plan here, which is to be as physical as possible and to indicate some superiority in the trenches. As for as good as the Saints offense is, this is still a tremendous defense that they're facing in San Francisco. It's just one of the best units in the league, consistent against both the pass and the run. And I think they can at least contain the Saints' holding field goals even at home. So I think this total is a little bit high. Excuse me. Not in terms of where they set the number, but in terms of how the game's going to play out. I don't think it's going to win by a lot, but I think the under is the right way to go. Jim?
Well, it's a confusing situation because I was talking about this the other day to some people. What has happened to Colin Kaepernick? Now, has something happened to him, or did their offensive game plan change? Or were there so many injuries to some of the players on the offense that they haven't been able to perform? I mean, this team on offense is 32nd. There's only 32 teams in passing, 174 yards per game. That's in passing the ball. In running, yes, they're 147 yards per game. That's 4th in the league. But just like last week again at home against Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers, they look absolutely horrendous. Kaepernick he does not look like the same guy. He came out of college. He was running the pistol. He ran the read option last year, and he was dynamic. They've stopped him from doing that. They said, hey, you're going to be a drop-back passer. He's not a drop-back passer. This guy is a dynamic football player, but he's playing in a system now that's not very dynamic. Now, is that going to change? Is the coaching staff going to realize what talent they have and use the talent, or they're going to keep trying to bottle him up, put him in a cage, and make him a drop-back passer? Now, perhaps they're doing this because they don't have any option behind him to win football games. Colt McCoy is the backup quarterback, and if they lose Kaepernick to an injury when he's running all over the field, they're going to end up with Colt McCoy, and they're not going to go anywhere. So they could be doing this to protect them. Let's limp into the playoffs and then turn them loose. Maybe that's the answer. I don't know, because it makes no sense other than that as to why they're playing the way they're playing. They're going to this is a pretty tough situation here. They looked like terrible last week. Before that, they played in London, and they had a week off. They came back from London, didn't look good last week. Now they traveled to one of the toughest home fields in all of football, New Orleans Saints, playing dynamic at home, covering everything. They're actually, right now, covering more at home than Seattle is, because Seattle's lost the last two times at home against the spread. Big spreads, but they lost to them. This is a tough spot for San. I have no idea what kind of game plan San Francisco is coming in here with, unless we just go, they're going to stay conservative, they're going to stay running the football, they're going to keep Kaepernick bottled up so that he doesn't get hurt. That may be the answer. I don't know why they're playing this way, but whatever they're doing, it ain't working, and they're taking a chance they may never make the playoffs unless they start winning. Because that 5-game run where they won, they weren't beating anybody. This is somebody. This is a good football team, and they got a chip on their shoulder, and they're taking it out on people. They destroyed Dallas in the last game. Will they do it again? Well, this is a much better defense, so I doubt that they'll do that again. I think, I think you're right, Dave. If the game gets out of hand, if San Francisco can't score, New Orleans gets up 14, 17 points, the game can change a lot. Yeah. And then you could start to see. I'm looking at I look at opening and closing lines and the movement during the week. Game opens 347.5. Now I'm looking at pretty solid threes, a couple 3.5s. I kind of agree with Sean. It looks skinny, unless you're going back to San Francisco last year. But San Francisco this year and New Orleans this year, the 3 looks skinny to me, and I agree with Sean on that. As far as the total's concerned, it's pretty stable. I see no movement at all. So the big money has not come in on this game either way. But I agree that Sean has. I think it's going to go higher. I think the 3 is going to end up being 4.
All right.
Or even higher than that.
Well, yeah, I won't go too much higher than that, I don't think. But 4. I think 4 is a legit possibility. Before we get to the featured game between the Chiefs and Broncos, we're going to check in with our other man of the street. That's John Cranton, who has a free NFL pick and is going to tell you what Mr. Vegas has rolling for this weekend. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, guys. Got a free pick coming up in the NFL, but first, Mr. Vegas steps up with 7 days of action in all sports for $15. You get NBA, college basketball, the NFL, college football, including his Saturday college football shocker game of the year. He's off his Sunday night NFL game of the year. That was the Saints, a 49-17 blowout. 7 days with Mr. Vegas in all sports, $15, including another game of the year winner Saturday, 1-866-896-1627. Now, last week, Mr. Vegas' free play was on the angry Seattle Seahawks. Well, the free play this week comes in the NFL Sunday as the Raiders and Texans meet in Houston. Now, that's a low total for an NFL game and a great matchup for both offenses. The Raiders can't pass the football, but they're great at running behind quarterback Terrell Pryor. And Houston is tops against the pass, but only 16th against the run. The Houston defense, the last 5 games, 34, 38, 17, 27, and 24 points, all losses. Houston, though, they have a good offense, 12th in the NFL in passing, 11th in rushing, and quarterback Case Keenum has 7 touchdowns and 0 picks. Faces an Oakland defense that is 31st against the pass. Houston on a 7-3 run over the total, including 4-0 over the total at home indoors. Your free play on Sunday, the Raiders Texans over the total. Now remember, Mr. Vegas has 7 days of action in all sports for $15, including that college football shocker of the year going Saturday, 1-866-896-1627.